All right, another episode of the Sound Powers podcast. Today we have magician and friend of mine, Alex Kazam, everybody.
I wanted to clap with you, man.
I
I
appreciate
wanted
it.
to clap with you. I feel like every episode I've seen you're clapping by yourself. I think except for like Chris. I think Chris clapped with you, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go, high
Yeah.
energy." It's like Oprah, you win a car, and you win a car, and you win a car. Um,
Yeah. Man, thank you so much for actually watching a couple episodes. Most of the people I have on have never seen an episode.
no, man, no. I watch as often as I can. I won't lie. Sometimes I flip it to like 1.75 the speed or 1.5,
Yeah, that's
and it just
awesome.
lets me like power through them, because like no offense, but I have
Yeah.
to do stuff with my day. I don't stop. I listen to them at point 0.5 speed because my life is so boring right now. I try to
Talking
waste as
about the
much
other
time as
day now, yeah.
possible. Yeah,
Oh, that's good, man. Holy shit, have you ever done
I'm
comedy?
trying to.
That's like such a great bit you just did.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. No, yeah. I got into comedy for a bit. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
really?
man.
Oh, shit. I just know you for your magic and stuff. Your magic is fucking awesome, man. Like,
Oh, I appreciate it, man.
you could
Yeah,
do
no,
shit like,
I quit
what?
magic because actually a stand-up comedian made me quit magic for a time because he was like this like old British dude, and like I won't mention his name, but he's like, oh, you fucking magicians, it's just you'd be nothing without your props, and you should really try comedy sometime. So
Yeah.
I did, and I got okay at it, and it was really interesting to see like, can I still be somebody? Can I still be a person on stage without the props? And
Hmm.
it turns out, yeah, it's a lot of work and it's difficult, but yeah, absolutely. Jeff Leeson's episode. I mean, there's a guy that I'd love to sit down at a coffee shop with when we're allowed to
Hmm.
do that again, um, because in magic, it's there's no magic show without a crowd, right? And that guy
Hmm.
literally specializes in crowd work, and it was really cool to hear you talk about how you basically said like, has it ever gone wrong, has it ever not worked, and he goes, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
and it's so true because I've seen him perform live a couple times. I know you've seen him, and you've met him. What a gem, because I like him especially because I don't find him to be unnecessarily crude, or disrespectful or
Hmm.
swear. I think a lot of young comedians especially are kind of relying on the shock factor of swearing and just being unnecessarily crude to get laughs, which is
Hmm.
an approach, and that's subjective. But personally, I much rather someone that can make you laugh by kind of also making you think, So, yeah.
Yeah, man, that was like definitely one of my favorite episodes I've done. And what I really liked is that he said he would pick like the person having the best time as opposed to like picking the person having the worst time, you know?
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, man, that opened my eyes so much. And now it's like I can't wait to do comedy again because like I feel like now I have like an insight on it, or like I know a couple of tricks because I've talked to him for like a couple hours. Like I got to ask him whatever I wanted, right? And he's like my idol for crowd work because like I'm so scared to do it. It's like it's such a scary thing to do. As a magician, you're like always doing crowd work essentially because you're always interacting with your audience all the time, right?
Huge, huge. And yeah, and it is scary. I've had, uh, I, a story comes to mind where, um, I have at one point, without I guess revealing too much, because I really hope when we can have shows again that some people come to check out a show. But at one point there is a live knife, and I say live as in it's real. There's no gimmickry about it. There's no fakery. It's a knife that I got at Zayre's, or like Superstore, Stupid Store as I call it. I
Hmm.
drilled a hole into the handle, and it stands on like this wooden stand that has a screw poking out, so it just stands like that with the blade pointing up. And that's a real thing, and essentially it's up to a person to make the decision as to what happens with that knife, and a lot can go wrong. And I remember one show, I had a bad feeling about the guy, but I ignored my gut feeling, as I probably shouldn't have. And then at the last second I said, you know what, sir, with all due respect, I don't think you're the right person for this. It's not your fault, it's my fault. I picked you. And
Hmm.
then I had him back to his seat, and brought a lady up. But later in that show, he did a couple like kind of unexpected things, and he ended up actually getting thrown out because of security. And I don't know if he was drunk or if he was just having a bad day. But I'm really thankful that that instinct of doing, thousands and thousands of shows kicked in. So yeah, man, I think for you, one writing process, if you'll allow me to kind of wax poetic for a minute, one writing process that I use and that I think a lot of stand-up comedians that are interested in doing crowd work could also use is you basically have, it's kind of game theory-ish, but you have your split script. So it starts with one line, and then based on what the person says, you now have two lines, and then those two lines become four, and those become eight, et cetera, et cetera. And it's almost like a choose your own adventure storybook, and you can never predict everything that a person will say. But at one point in the show, I said, I say, if you could have any superpower, what superpower would you have? And I'll ask you, Sav, what superpower would you have if you could choose any superpower to have?
Well, definitely not flying, because I ask that question all the time, and so many people say flying. Mine is shape-shifting, bro. It's kind of
Shape-shifting.
cheating, because like then you could just change into anything and have any power you want, essentially, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Mhm.
Fair enough. And so now, asking you that as a friend, now I go back to my script, and that's one that I've never gotten before. So the first thing that comes to mind would be like, okay, how could I play with that? Like, I could probably ask you, would you want to shapeshift to help people, or just to fuck with them? And I could ask you that,
Mhm.
and that might get a little laugh, but it also like create thought. But I had this moment in my show where I asked people that question, individual audience members with a mic, and for most replies, flying,
Mhm.
healing, all this stuff, I had like a one-liner ready and written out, and in the moment, it seems like, oh, this guy's so witty, he just came up with that. But it's not that at all. It's literally just like months and months and months of scripting with my mentor in Toronto and writing the show. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people think that magic shows are just mostly improvised, and good ones will come off that way. But it's like Robin Williams, rest his soul. He was known to go into a venue hours before the doors ever opened, and he would make note of like where the washrooms were, and if he had to leave through the front of the stage to go to the washroom, he would be ready for that. And if he saw like an exit sign where like part of the letters were out or flickering, he was ready for that, and he would just write. If there's an ugly chandelier, he'd write a bit about the chandelier, and then halfway through his scripted set, he'd go off onto the seemingly like improvised tangent, when in fact that was also scripted, right? But it always felt like he was just coming
That's
up with this stuff.
interesting. That's crazy they would go there hours before. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's so genius in a way. Like, isn't it? That's kind of like cheating. And I feel like, it's like you're pretending you came up with this on the spot, but it's like,
Yeah.
you
Is
know,
it cheating or is it acting?
I don't know, right? That it like really people are paying to be entertained. So like he's putting the extra work in. Good on him.
Yeah.
Because I would never think of doing something like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's wild, man. And I have a lot of respect for him for that, because I think that translates to the magic world a lot. We're always prepared. It's very hard to just do something off the cuff with whatever's laying around. I think that's kind of what separates the amateurs from the professionals. But I think in a lot of ways, being good at magic, I just have to sit there and think, okay, what could happen, and how do I prepare for that? And one of my favorite stories is a man and his friend are walking on a beach, and his buddy goes, "Oh man, you know what? It's really hot out." And the other guy, the main guy, he's a magician, and he goes, "Yeah, it is." And then 5 minutes later, he goes, "Poof!" and a sandwich appears, and like he has no shirt on, just like swim trunks, no sleeves, and he makes a sandwich appear, and the other guy goes, "Well, that's pretty cool, right?" And then same scenario, but instead of saying it's hot outside, man B says, "Oh man, I'm really hungry." And the magician goes, "Oh, what are you hungry for? Like, what could you eat?" And he goes, "Oh, I'd really like a pizza sub from Subway." And they're like in Central America on some beach. There's no subways
Right.
for like thousands of miles.
Mhm.
And the magician goes, boom, and he has a pizza, like a meatball sub, a pizza sub or whatever.
Mhm.
In that moment, he basically answered a challenge without seemingly any way to do it, right? The guy just said, "I'm hungry," like spur of the moment. And he said,
Mhm.
"What are you hungry for?" He said, "Oh, pizza sub." And then the guy makes it appear. And I think in comedy, I think there's a lot of overlap there, because if you can anticipate what someone's going to say and then have a reply ready, I think it makes it just that much more powerful, and funnier and more meaningful.
Mhm. Damn, how do you get that pizza sub though as a magician?
That's what I'm still trying to figure out, man. I have no friggin' idea, but I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Damn. Do you have a favorite magic trick that you do?
Favorite magic trick that I do? Yeah, you know what? There's two, and I think The first one is a routine I do with a cigarette, and there's a lighter, and it just gets crazy. I could probably do it for you.
Yeah, that'd be fucking awesome.
But I think this little Tylenol pill here. One sec here. I'm gonna see. I know I have a lighter somewhere. I have my Tylenol pill bottle. I'll leave that here. How do I leave it here so you can see it? Oh, there it is. Perfect. I'll leave the little Tylenol box there. There's that, and then I think to the point I just made, man. When someone, I think there's a difference between a puzzle, a magic trick, and a magic moment. Mm-hmm. And I think if we break that down with comedy, it's kind of the same thing. That old expression of a comedian says funny things and a comic says things funny. I think a puzzle is like, oh, like I do this thing. It's not really a magic trick. I just I hand you a piece of paper with a little hole in it, and I say, I need you to poke your head through this hole. And you're like sitting there trying to figure out how to poke your head through this hole. And then I take the piece of paper from you and I just stick my finger through the hole and I poke my head through the hole.
Right? That's amazing.
It's a puzzle, I love that. Right?
Yeah, that's I like that though. That's sick.
Yeah. And then the next level would be a magic trick, and somehow making that, like an actual trick. So, pick a card, put it back in, I shuffle it, and then I find your card. Okay, it's a magic trick. But then magic moment is what I'm always reaching for with people. And I think to answer your question of what's my favorite magic trick, it's the magic trick that doesn't feel like a trick. It feels like it's real, and there's no way in hell that could have happened. The pizza sub is a magic moment, right? It's like,
right.
This is not, he didn't plan this. He just came up with it. And I've had those a few times, but they're damn hard to script, and they're damn hard to forecast or to predict happening, So yeah, hold on a second. Hold on. Don't leave.
All right. So here, I'll pause the thing so that I don't have to talk to myself.
See, I had a feeling here that this was going to come up. So, and I have a bit of a headache. So I know from watching your episodes that you're a fellow smoker.
Yeah.
This is my little Tylenol bottle, but inside of it, I just keep a lit cigarette.
Oh shit!
I thought we'd do something. But yeah, it's you know what? I'm actually going to switch my headphone to this ear. There we go. But it's a routine that I've done for years and years and years, and it's evolved and changed. But just weird visual stuff. I like weird visual stuff. It's a prop cigarette, so it's one of those theater cigarettes. So I can do this.
Okay, not real. Oh shit! That was crazy.
I like stuff that kind of makes you just kind of think about what could be going on, what could not be going on. And I started magic because of my uncle Val, and he would do this thing with sleeves rolled up, and he'd manipulate the cigarette. It was kind of like his trying to quit smoking. He'd always fail. That's the wrong end.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa. Damn, that was sick.
I appreciate it, man. The cigarette lighter is actually inside of the cigarette, and the cigarette's inside the cigarette. This is a lighter. The cigarette goes behind my elbow. I don't know if you can see that there. And then the lighter I ditch on my collar here. Yep. Yeah. And then the cigarette I ditched that.
Oh man, damn. Oh my god. Dude, that was so crazy.
I appreciate it, man.
That was dope actually seeing it live, right in front of me on video. Man, your sleight of hand is fucking amazing, bro.
Oh, thanks, man.
That was incredible. I've always really appreciated that stuff because it's hard to learn, man. I've tried to learn magic when I was a kid, and it's fuck, dude, it's really difficult to fucking do that shit. And it looks so cool, man. That looks unbelievable. Like you said, it looks like you actually make the shit disappear. And the lighter and cigarette switch was mind blowing, bro. And it was so much cooler. I've seen shit like that on YouTube or whatever. There's this guy that can make does all this crazy shit with a marker, what you were doing. But just I was hey, you never know what's could be edited, but seeing this live, you definitely, it's impossible for you to instantly edit. So I was super sick, man. Damn.
No, I appreciate that, man. I think that's with all this quarantine craziness. I've been thinking about, what's the advantage of this medium, like the medium that you and I are sitting in right now. And
Hmm.
I've seen, David Green doing online stuff with the like the Queen Street Radio, but the, Quarantine Queen, or whatever he's calling it.
Right,
Um,
right.
like it's just it's really neat because yeah, like it's different to see it live, and instant editing is not exactly possible. And yet a friend of mine, an acquaintance in the magic world, actually came up with a way to not edit but kind of alter the reality thanks to this being on video. And he kind of found like a funny workaround where you can kind of make things seem like they're happening that aren't at all happening, and it's only thanks to the fact that it's on Zoom or on video.
Oh,
um,
really? That's so cool. Like,
yeah.
what kind of shit?
So
Like through live video, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
imagine this, and without giving it away, but he'll hold up like a deck of cards,
Hmm.
like say here, and you can see the frame here, and you can see me here, and you can see like you can see that
Right.
there's like something here, a wall, a painting, whatever. Oh, by the way, I'm on a green screen background in case you want to edit something in and make it really look hilarious and trippy for people. I thought
You
I'd
can
just
switch
sit.
the background now if you want. If you use Zoom, you can go to
No, I've never. No, I did
here,
one
watch.
show on Zoom.
You go to video, choose virtual background, and then you can like make it space. See, for me, it's like it doesn't know what's the green screen and what's not, so half my face changes to editor's face and
The
stuff.
green screen. Yeah.
This is my version of magic.
I love it, man. Yeah, I don't even know where to go to do that. I'm
It's
just like,
honestly,
you do you. I'm gonna just sit with a green screen and someone can mess around with it, and in YouTube they
yeah.
can download it and put something weird behind me. Um, but yeah, no. So he would have something like this, and he'd open up the box, and he'd pull out like a carrot, like something that's this long out of something that's this big, and it's like
Hmm.
a real carrot, like I'll start eating it. And he revealed how to do that
That's
in
sick,
like
actually.
an online lecture. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm excited, man. I think this has forced a lot of people to reconsider, taking large scale events, live events for granted. I think a lot of people are going to be craving them. I worry about, guys like Jeff Leeson, myself, people that, he's been doing it. I think what, 20 years now, comedy at
Yeah,
least.
yeah.
And that's his full-time living. And there, the question of, do you ever want to quit? You asked Jeff that, and that really resonated because during this COVID stuff, his answer was very similar to what mine would be. And I think that in many ways, though, it's kind of forced us to reconsider and like reevaluate. Okay, so if this becomes the new reality, if this is the show, right, as it
Hmm.
were, little Zoom conferences or whatever, what does that mean, and how do we take advantage of that? How do we make the most of that? And that's
Right.
that's a curious thought exercise, man. Like, what have you been up to? How are you coping with all this? Are you writing at all? Like, what are you doing?
This is it, bro. Doing the podcast.
Yeah,
I have so many recorded. This will probably get released in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, if that's cool.
great,
Because
absolutely.
I have like so many banked, and I'm trying to release them in order.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's good, but even this, man, as an outlet, I mean, good on you. It's better than doing nothing, and
Hmm.
just spiraling downwards. And I think a lot of people have. I know I have a little bit. There's been some moments where I'm like, oh man, like what's happening? I recently like deactivated all my social media, just taking like a week long break from any social media, just to just clear my head and kind of sit with my own thoughts. And I just needed that, and I'm excited to see what happens on the flip side of that, of coming out of that. But there came a moment where I'm like scrolling through Instagram, and I'm like, man, this is the third hour of me scrolling through Instagram, you know, and these pictures aren't getting any better. Like, it's
Yeah,
the same crap.
yeah. Yeah. Fuck, man. Yeah, it's weird, man. Like my life has definitely changed a lot. Like I was going to comedy clubs or like bars that had comedy things at them like 2, 3 times a week at least, you know? Um, fuck, man. Like I miss doing stand up. It was like I feel like if I did it now, like I wouldn't be as funny, you know? Like I might just stop. Like if this was became successful, which I doubt it will, but if like if I somehow got successful at this, I'd probably quit comedy and just keep doing podcasting.
Yes, yeah, fair, man. And don't see you doubt it, man. I mean, um, I have tons of resources, even just personally, that I can forward along to you when it comes to creating a successful podcast. And we don't have to chat about that right now, but I don't think anything's impossible. I think if anything, we've seen the trend of podcast listeners going up, which of course means more podcast shows, but that of course then means more podcast guests and people that are willing to be a guest on a podcast. So no, don't get yourself short, man. I think your content's engaging. I think that at the end of the day, if you come up with a formula and a goal, you know, even like mini goals of, all right, how do I, and just little baby step at a time. And then, you know, I always tell people, I think people underestimate they overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And
wow, that's well said. I've never heard someone say that. I like that.
Yeah, no, and that's
actually so true, man. Yeah.
And it's easy to like set all these crazy goals for like 1 year, and then you don't hit them, so you get disappointed and you kind of just go back to your own ways or old ways of doing, you know, nothing, or just kind of being average and coasting. But imagine like a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year, and a 10 year. Now it doesn't mean that at that 10th year you're going to be where you thought you were. A lot might have changed through those 10 years, but I think unconsciously having that place you want to get to in 10 years will create successes along the way, and will create changes in your own physiology, your own psychology, to start at least moving in a direction. I think the biggest problem right now is that no one feels like they can move in a direction, which is, it not only breeds apathy, but I think it also breeds depression and anxiety and a lot of, like, you know, stuff during this COVID time that we're not used to seeing, you know. It's kind of scary, but I look forward to helping you make your podcast successful. And I don't think you should quit comedy. If anything, just use your comedy skills.
Yeah, true. I wish I didn't say that. I was thinking like, fuck. Now my comedy buddies are going to roast me for that, though, because I said I would quit comedy.
Yeah. No, I hope you don't, man. And honestly, that's in my fear too, man. We go back on stage and then what? Like, I feel rusty as hell, man. When's the last time I actually did magic for a live human? Like, you know, maybe my girlfriend at one point, maybe like, I think at one point in a restaurant, I was at Rufino's in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And that was cool because someone recognized me there and they asked me if I could do something. So I did like a social distance magic trick for them.
That's dope.
You know, but that's the closest to a show I've done in months, man.
I love that you said yes, that someone's like, yo, do a trick, and you're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's, comedians hate that. If someone's like, hey, tell a joke, they're like, yo, fuck off. You know?
Yeah. I used to really hate it, man. I was really torn about it for a while, but you know what? And I would say this to my comedian buddies, man, because I think it's the same thing. I mean, it's so interesting. I think comedians get it, magicians get it. Actors, I've heard a couple buddies that are professional actors where someone will say, you know, are you an actor? They go, yeah, and they go, well, what have you been in that I would recognize? And they go, you know, maybe this, maybe that, maybe nothing. And then I've had a couple people say that people have like requested like a monologue, like, yeah, act for me, you know, which is just so weird.
That'd be crazy, like, imagine.
Yeah. I don't think, like, if someone said like, oh, I play the harp, I don't think someone would be like, yo, bust out your harp. Like, maybe if they're near their harp, but if you're just like out on the beach, like, could you imagine that? But me, I'm like in my swim trunks, shirtless on the beach, and someone finds out I'm a magician. Oh, do something. I'm fucking swim, man.
Yeah.
Weird, you know? Oh, you're a plumber? You want to come fix my toilet? Like,
yeah. And so the beach is so funny because it's like you obviously don't have anything you can do a trick with.
Yeah,
like,
and I still did it. Why? Why did I still do it? I still did something, man. Christ. But you know what? It was this guy. I think it was this guy. His name is Eugene Berger, and he passed away recently. But a very, very talented and just like legacy of a magician kind of a guy. He had this big beard and like silver hair, and he was a big dude. And his voice, when he talked, it was grovelly, and he wouldn't speak very quickly. But I'm Eugene, but it was really, I can't even do it anymore. But he said, to the point of like people asking you to, you know, kind of dance monkey dance. He said, "How dare you not?" And that really stuck with me, man, because I think it was an essay, and then later on in an interview, he kind of repeated himself. But he said that lady who's a cashier at the grocery store, whose life is the same clock in, clock out, day in, day out. She might go home to a husband that loves her. She might go home to a husband that's not very nice to her. She might have kids screaming and her car breaks down and her life is just kind of, and how dare I not try to just spread a little bit of joy, you know? It kind of made me tear up the other night because I was thinking about this moment. I was just really down on myself and this COVID craziness and just all of it. And then I kind of teared up thinking about this moment where this, like, he was probably like 12 or 13-year-old kid came up to me at the grocery store. It was Zehrs by Fairview Mall here in St. Kitts, and I think I was like 18 or 19 at the time. And he came up and he goes, "Alex, is that Alex Kazam?" And I was like, "Oh, hello, like, yes." And he pulls out his, like, it was like one of those like Nintendo wallets, you know, like the cool, like, kind of nerdy geek wallets with the Nintendo, like old school Nintendo kind of insignia on it. He
Yeah.
pulls it out, and inside is like this tattered, beat up card with my signature on it and his name on it. And it says, you know, I always wrote, "Thanks for believing, Alex Kazam."
Right.
And he pulls it out and he tells me the story of how I performed for him when he was like 8, and like years and years and years ago. And
Wow.
I'm just sitting there and I'm going, man, like this young man who I didn't recognize, and maybe it's because, the amount of people that I've performed
Right.
for, or just the years
Yeah.
it's been, whatever. But he had this memory, and it made him so courageous and so brave in that moment, re-seeing me, to come up to me, a stranger essentially in a grocery store.
Yeah.
I could have been totally someone else, and he had the courage to come up and say, "Hey, is this you?" And then tell me the
Is
story.
this your card?
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. So yeah, man, next time, I would share the comedy community more, man, and say that too, is next time someone says tell a joke, have 2 or 3 things that in those situations can be funny, not necessarily
Right.
a single joke, but a reply that then gets them laughing. And
Yeah.
you go, it
That
wasn't
story
really a
was
joke,
so
but
beautiful, but with like comedians, it's different because usually it's just some asshole like smoking cigarettes outside the comedy place where he could see me. Like, you know what I mean? "Oh, you're a comedian too, Todd. You can see comedy right here. Go inside. Quit
yeah,
smoking."
go pay
You know
your
what I mean?
$5. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But man, that was a good story. That's sick, actually. Damn. That's so fucking cool. I hope that kid listens to this podcast. How old would he be now?
Oh man,
You think
yeah.
he still has the
He's
card?
probably like, oh, I hope so. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
probably, I don't even know how old he'd be now, but yeah, that'd be cool.
Hmm.
He's probably almost 20 now. Like what, 18, 19? Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy, man. It's
Man,
crazy to think about that.
yeah. It sucks for people turning 19 right now. They can't even go to the bar or anything.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah, they have to line up at the LCBO,
Yeah.
buy themselves like a pity bottle of vodka legally
Yeah.
for the first time. Yeah. Oh man, it's wild, dude. But I'm excited. I'm so excited to hear the sets that are going to come out of this with fellow comedians, man. And like,
I'm sick of hearing about it because it's like that's all that's like the news is, and that's all anyone's status has been about for a while. It's like all
yeah,
they talk about on the podcast. Like,
yeah. No, it's fair. Okay, I won't mention it again. But no, and that's why I appreciate doing the podcast, man, because I think now more than ever people need a relief. They need some kind of a break from this I don't know, this new normal. I don't know. I don't like calling it that, but I've tried to make it a point to not post anything really to do with COVID too much. I've tried to just share, like, happy things and things that are going right in the world, because I mean, even with the George Floyd incident and then the protests and the riots, like it's so important. And I don't think being apolitical is the right thing to do in that case. And that, at a certain moment, I did share some things that would be healthy resources for people. But personally, I think there's so much that I think needs to go right with people as individuals through this. People that aren't working, people that are just wasting their time. I think they need to realign so that they can then help the world realign. I think we have to think global but act local. And I think a lot of people try to act global. They'll donate to all these causes, and they're just, they don't even know where the money's really going, instead of like looking in their own backyard, and their family might be completely racist. Their friends might be completely racist, or completely like just off, and instead of calling them out on it, they donate to a cause, which to me is a little bit backwards. But yeah.
damn, yeah. Back to like magic and shit. How'd you get into that? What made you want to become a magician, bro?
Oh man, I think like a lot of things, sorry, not a lot of things. I think like a lot of people, especially a lot of magicians, I think at first it was a way to like get one over on the jocks. You know, it was like kind of like the quiet nerd's revenge. You know, I
That's
know
dope.
something you
Yeah,
don't.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for a while it was that, and that I think maybe that's what led me to continue it through high school because you know I had phases, man. At one point I wanted to be an astronaut. At one point I wanted to be an NBA basketball player.
yeah.
Like I had phases, but the magic was always the through line. It was always there for some reason. And I started when I was 6, and it was the year my father died. And I think in some ways I kind of clung on to magic as a way to cope with losing my dad. And I don't know if I'm right or if that's just, you know, completely wrong. Maybe it is. But I think a big part of me didn't really understand. I never met my dad. I didn't know him, and I never saw him. Never got to see him. But for some reason, um, losing him and also losing my grandma around the same time, and she basically raised me. I think it was a 6-year-old's way to just cope and realign. My mom was an immigrant who was working, you know, way too many jobs. She wasn't really home a lot. So I think it just kind of kept me busy. And then yeah, through high school, I think it was kind of the nerd's revenge. It was like I'm gonna be cool because I have this skill. And then luckily, I think at 20, I think I quit magic for a while because I wanted to prove to myself that I'm still a person. I'm still capable of being a human. I can have a conversation without constantly having to perform magic tricks. I think I became a little jaded as well. And the last thing this world needs is a goddamn jaded magician, you know, another jaded magician. And I grew out of that desire to fool people. And instead I realized, man, I'm okay at this. I'm not the best in the world, but if I don't do this, what the hell else am I going to do? And Jeff said the same thing, man. He quits comedy. You know, he's in
Yeah,
sales, but
yeah,
what the hell else am I going to do, man? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a skill I have. I didn't go to carpentry school. You know, I'm not a plumber. I didn't become a
Uh-huh.
doctor. I was supposed to become a criminal lawyer, man. I was going to go to law school, but 3 days before the deadline for university, when we were in high school, I walked into my guidance counselor's office, and I said I can't go into law. Like I want to be a performer. I want to get into acting and voiceover work and magic and this and that. And then I just decided, man. My kind of motto for 2020 is you decide. And
Hmm.
that's thanks to my buddy Kale. My buddy Kale, every time I see him at one point or another, he says, well, you decide. And it's like his motto in life is, oh man, like I'm feeling really shitty today. Well, you decide. And you know, deep down, okay, yes, mental health, and yes, maybe, you know, there's something in your brain that's wrong and you need medication. Okay, go get medical help. That's all fair and well. You're
Hmm.
physically not okay. You're in chronic pain. Okay, I get that. Go seek, you know, help and get a doctor. But I think 95% of the time we're in charge of our destiny, man. If you say the words to me, you know, I don't think this is ever going to be successful, well then it won't, because you just decided it's not going to, right? So the same with me, man. It was like I can either be homeless or I can make this work with magic. And I just thought, well, I'm going to decide to make this work, and
Yeah.
then I did, you know.
Hmm.
And I wish there was like some secret, some formula, but it's just you wake up and you do what you have to do until the next day.
So what's like your end goal? Do you want like to be like your own show in Vegas kind of deal?
You know what, man? I spent a lot of time in Vegas. I definitely was not performing in Vegas. Okay, definitely not. Just in case any U.S. Officials watch this, but
They won't. Nobody watched this.
hey, no. We'll make sure we watch it.
Yeah.
But uh, yeah, no, you know what? Vegas isn't the end goal, but I think just like New York, I think is a long term goal. I would love to have a show like off Broadway, and not necessarily just magic, but tying in the theater, tying in the comedy training, tying in a bunch of different skills, and yeah, having my name up in lights has never been a goal. It's not. I don't. It's funny, man. I think as I've like gotten a little bit older, I'm 28, so you're 29, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not too far apart. I
Mm-hmm.
think over the past like 5 years, my narcissism and ego as a performer has really like just kind of gone down. It's I think to be a performer at some level, you have to have slight narcissistic qualities. because it's just what it takes, I think.
Yeah, you gotta
And
believe in
that's
yourself and think you're the shit. If to end up on top, you gotta think you can be, right?
absolutely, yeah. And yeah, man, for me, it's become less about fame lately. I think people think of it a little like a bit weird. Like they think that, oh, like once you book that movie role or you have that stand up special or you have that magic show, um, you're set. Man, for a few moments, I was on America's Got Talent. I can say that I was a contestant. Not as much that we filmed ended up airing on
Hmm.
TV, but I still had a great time with that. I've been on TV a ton of times. My first time was on national television. I think I was 18 or 19 years old with MTV. But it's like this, man, and you have to remember that it comes in waves. There's months where I don't really get many bookings, and I start panicking, and then I get overwhelmed with stuff, and then and then the TV thing happens, so I get more and more, and then so I have to remember that I don't think it's so much. I don't think we can wake up and just realize like, oh yeah, another day in June, and today I've decided I am successful. Right? I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that word, man, that drives me nuts. People are like, oh, like I'm not successful, but you ask any celebrity, man, and you've got to be around some say high profile people. I've been around my fair share of high profile people. Uh, all of them. I think the ones that have their head on straight will tell you there's no day where they wake up and they go, today I know I am successful. I mean, maybe their burden financially is lifted, but if you ask Brad Pitt, like, are you ever going to give up? Like you've done a lot, like you've won an Oscar. Like I don't think Brad Pitt would sit there and go, I am a successful actor who is where he wants to be. I feel like Brad Pitt even still has journeys and paths he wants to take, and that
Yeah.
fascinates me.
Uh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. I think Brad Pitt has done. Like he might say that. It'd be interesting to ask him. No, no, just um, man, that's dope. Do you have any magic tricks that you've invented yourself?
oh man, nope. I'll say that straight up. I have a few that I've worked on and like conceptualized, sure,
Mm,
but it never came to a final point of like, boom, here's my finished invented magic trick. And
right.
for a while, I was embarrassed about that. But the truth is, I'm a sound believer that I have routines. I have things that I've made my own,
Mm,
though the concept isn't my own at all. So it comes from some guy's version of another person's version of another guy's version of whatever, and I've
right.
just taken that end whatever and then made it suit me. And I'm more obsessed with that now because I
Hmm.
think creating an original magic trick is really difficult, and there are people that do it and they do it well. But it's funny because most of the creators I know that are insane and they come up with these original ideas, and you're like, how are you so good at this? How do you fire off these like original thoughts? Most of them are really crap performers, and it's very
Mm,
rare that you get a guy or a girl that can do both, that
mm,
can both create and perform.
mm,
So I'm a performer, man, and I've
right.
known that for a while now. I rather take other people's stuff and change it, reevaluate it, rescript it, and that's my biggest problem with magic, man. Is that going to a magic convention. Imagine this, okay? Going to a magic convention would be like going to, let's say we had a group of stand-up comedians who had a convention, all right?
Yeah.
And they have this convention. This is literally what a magic convention is like, but I'm going to put it in the form of comedy, just to show you how ridiculous it is.
Okay.
You have Jeff Leeson that comes up, and you've got David Green that comes up, and and yourself. Okay, so there's the three of you. You got Sad Powers, David Green, and Jeff Leeson. And they come on stage and they do their sets. All right, and people laugh and they applaud, and then their set's over. And then all three of you come back out and word for word teach the convention attendees what the jokes were, how to say them, and then you sell the jokes and they go off and do those jokes. And in comedy, it's
Huh.
like it's such a faux pas to rip off other people's material, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's like a
yeah,
very easy way to get blacklisted and stop performing.
yeah.
Is just rip off other people that are better than you, that had the idea first and that are more successful than you. I mean, that's a great way to never do comedy again.
Mm-hmm.
In magic, that's literally what it is, man. Is you have these kind of nerdy white guys, most of whom aren't performing like for money. They're just hobbyists, and they have money because they have the regular jobs. and they walk in by the thousands into these giant halls in hotels in Vegas, or there's one, you know, even in Jersey that happens. There's some all over the States, all over the world. And they walk into these conventions. The guy comes on stage. He's a successful magician. He shows off his trick, and then he sells you the trick with what they call patter, right? Which is just a bad word for scripting. If you look up the etymology of the word patter, it actually drives me more nuts. But that's a big problem I have with magic, man. And I've always tried, and not always succeeded, but I've always tried to at least be a little bit different. You know, at first it was like, okay, I would do some stock stuff that I've seen other people do and lines that they've published that I could do, and I got successful and I got shows. Okay, but then I went, but this isn't me. So who am I, right? And that was an existential crisis, man. I started doing stand-up, for God's sake. It's like, please, like, I had to figure that out, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, that's my long answer, man. I'm sorry. Now you've got me, like, rambling. I feel like I'm on fire.
Yeah, I remember this kid won America's Got Talent, and I saw in the comments someone said, like, you can take this guy's trick, but you shouldn't take his jokes or whatever. And then I looked up that guy, and it was like this old magician's trick with the bottles, right? Tommy something, I think, is the original guy. Do you know what I'm
Tommy
talking about?
Cooper.
Yeah, he's awesome. So he's like a magician and a comic, right? He was both, which is, he's probably one of your idols, right? Or
huge. Yeah. In fact, so I tell the story about my uncle and how my uncle got me into magic, which is a little bit of, yes, like real, but mostly bullshit. When I'm performing, I'll talk about my uncle who worked at the carnival and this and that. And it's there is truth there. And there's definitely a lot of truth in that story and talking about my uncle. But it's funny. My uncle's actually this conceptualized character that I end up then playing on stage. My Uncle Val. But Uncle Val wears like a red fez, and the reason Uncle Val does is because Tommy Cooper was such a heavy influence, and he always had this like stupid little red fez on. It's just why. But now like the fez is in the basement. I just brought it downstairs. But it's he's oh man, what an idol, what a marvel, man. I think he ended up having a heart attack on stage. Like I think the YouTube clip actually exists of him dying on stage. And like what a way to go, man. You know, what a way to go. Crazy, doing what you love, right?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's crazy. Damn, dude.
It's wild, man.
If you had your own podcast, what do you think it would be about?
You know what? So I had one for a while. It's called Get Out of Your Head. I'm pretty sure it's still on Apple Music or whatever. iTunes, is that what it's called? iTunes. It's on iTunes. It's on, I think, SoundCloud as well. There's some episodes. I like you, man. I banked them up and then I stopped doing it. I got busy with a different project and I never published the old episodes, which I really should do one day. And I might outsource that to like a guy on Fiverr to like edit. If
just post them all raw right now, one a day or once.
Oh,
yeah. Or all
I might, man. It was called Get Out of Your Head, and at that point, I felt like I was having, I call it paralysis by analysis, where you're trying to analyze and like think your way out of a situation so much that you end up just becoming paralyzed and you don't move at all. So I wanted to make a podcast called Get Out of Your Head because I felt a lot of people in my age demographic were also struggling with that. And so my whole goal was I'm going to have lawyers on, I'm going to have magicians on, comedians on. At one point I had a stripper on, like adult dancer on, just all these different people, and I wanted to just draw parallels between them. So that was cool. But I think
that's sick, actually.
Yeah, you know, like what do successful people have in common? No matter if their success is, you know, world famous or being a really good carpenter. Like I don't think it matters. And then Tim Ferriss released a book called Tools of the Titans, which was basically that idea. You know, it was like the habits of icons, billionaires, and celebrities, right? Like the tips and tricks and habits of icons, billionaires, and celebrities. Now, I think I might dive into podcasting about the theory of stage performance, not necessarily just magic, but I think having a podcast about the sorry, I just bumped my microphone. The conceptual nature, but also the practical nature of performing on stage, and maybe tying in what that means on video. I think that would be a really fun podcast, man. It's basically doing what you're doing in a sense, tailor it more to, okay, I'm a 16-year-old kid that wants to write a show. How do you start? And it's tough, man. It's really tough. I remember I was trying to write my show. At first it was called Magic Mystery Cabaret, and now we changed the name to Magic Beyond Tricks. And originally it was 90 minutes. Now it's 75 and 90 minutes, depending on what the client wants. But I sat there staring at the blank computer screen, and there's this quote by Neil Gaiman. And he said that writing is basically a battle between you and a blank screen or a blank page. And very often the blank piece of paper wins. And it's such a good quote, because I sat there not knowing where to start. I kept Googling like how to write a magic show. Good luck. Like nothing comes up. So I think that's what I would do, man, if I was going to podcast. Maybe I should podcast.
Yeah, dude, that'd be dope.
Hello.
Everybody should have a podcast, I think. Joe Rogan says that too. I was thinking like, man, do you watch Joe Rogan at all?
Yeah. I just, you know what? It took me some time to get around to it, but I just watched his interview with Elon Musk.
Nice, the second one, right?
I've been saying that because it's so funny, man. I have so many points with which I agree with Joe Rogan, and then I have so many points where I'm like, man, like you're a little crazy, man. Like I respect the crap out of you, but you're you're a little off. And it's cool. I like hosts like that. I like people that I can agree to disagree with, you know? But I think
you're not agree 100% with anybody, you know? That's the beautiful thing about life in a way, is like how different everybody is, you know, in every way almost. Like I wonder, like even like seeing stuff, like I imagine that if me and you stood in the exact same place, both our eyes looking at the exact same thing, we would see it differently, you know? And like completely differently. Like who knows, even colors might look different to you. We just don't know, right? It's like, fuck, life is such a crazy mystery. Now I'm getting into the real stoner shit.
I love it, man. It's okay. You know what? Here, I have this sign that my buddy made for me, and it's got my favorite quote on it, and I think it might be a good time to pull it out. My buddy Bruce made me this sign. It's just off camera, man. I'll go grab it, and I'll be right back, okay?
All right, cool. I'll pause the recording. All right, start recording again.
Man, I don't know how far away I have to be here. It's pretty big.
Huge. That's awesome.
He made me this giant sign. It's got my logo on it and everything.
There's nothing in the real world. What is there? It's all in your head or something.
Yeah. So it's this quote by he's a neuroscientist out of the UK, and his name is Sir John Eccles. And the quote is, "I want you to know that there are no colors in the real world. There are no fragrances in the real world. That there's no beauty and there's no ugliness. Out there beyond the limits of our perceptual apparatus is the erratically ambiguous and ceaselessly flowing quantum soup. And we're almost like magicians in that in the very act of perception, we take that quantum soup and we convert it into the experience of material reality in our ordinary, everyday, waking state of consciousness." And
that's crazy. I love that. That's actually so sick.
It's my favorite quote, man. And I actually learned of it from watching a hypnosis lecture. It was like a hypnosis training course with a bunch of different hypnotists, and it was like a live event that they videotaped, and then you'd have to buy the videotape of the event, and different hypnotists would lecture. And this one guy, his name's actually James Brown, which is funny, but not the singer. He came on and he referenced that quote to kind of try and give people a working definition of hypnosis. And I heard him say it, and I like rewinded the video, and then I like listened back, and then I like Googled John Eccles and what he meant by that. But yeah, it's kind of nutty to think about, man. And I appreciate what you said about, you know, it's really beautiful that all of us are so different, and somehow, some way, we've allowed ourselves to coexist, you know, even in this wacky time, and so much is you know, going wrong and kind of scaring people. But I look at the highway, you know, and I'm a motorcyclist, man. I ride my motorcycle a lot, and I look around and I'm like, man, like evolutionarily speaking, we're not meant to travel faster than about 12 kilometers an hour. And that's just proven by science. And it's actually like stumped scientists how we're able to all travel at like 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers, 120 kilometers an hour without just
200
constantly,
kilometers.
yeah, without just constantly killing ourselves, you know?
Mhm.
And it's yeah, there's fatal accidents, but for the most part, most people get to where they're going safely.
Yeah, that
And
is weird.
that's
Yeah.
wild, man.
Hmm.
That's
It
wild.
is wild, and driving is fun, man. Like, it is so wild. Like, it's so weird that we're like in this short period of time, if you think about it, where people will be driving. You know, cars got invented, and then up until about now, we're gonna have self-driving cars, right? So I feel pretty lucky to be able to like drive my own car because it's like a fun thing, and it's probably even more fun to ride a motorcycle. I rode a moped once in Thailand and crashed it. That's like the closest thing to riding a motorcycle for me.
That's all right, man. Why did you crash it?
Oh, it was fucked, dude. So like, I was just trying to keep up with my buddy, and then there's this crazy turn out of nowhere, and I didn't know which brake was the front brake, which brake was the back brake. I didn't know if it mattered which one I pressed. So I just wiped out in front of a bus full of tourists, and there's a sign that said "bike repair this way." Clinic right there, pharmacy right across the street. I was like, oh my god, people must crash at this corner all the time. But
Yeah, that's hilarious. I
luckily,
mean,
I
but
was
what?
wearing a helmet. I didn't get too fucked up, but just like my knee and
Yeah,
shit. Hmm.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're okay, man. You got a story now.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, it's a different sensation, man. I mean, you've been on a moped. It's I think I ride my motorcycle because it forces me to stay present and like super in the moment at all times. Like
Hmm.
there's no question. Like if for a second I start like daydreaming about something else, um, I mean, I'm as good as dead. I think that you know, it's
Oh
one thing to
shit,
like
that's a good
observe,
way. Yeah.
but yeah, I just
Huh.
literally I have this like thought exercise I do every time I get on my bike where I just pretend I'm like Pierce Brosnan in Die Another Day and James Bond, where he's got like the Aston Martin Vanish, they call it, right? And he just pushes the button and it's just the whole car just cloaks and invisible.
Hmm.
When I get on the bike, that's basically what I pretend I am. It's just absolutely invisible, and then it doesn't allow me to get upset or angry because you know it's similar to juggling where like, oh, I almost dropped the ball, so like I go to catch it and then I'm like, whew, all right, I caught that ball, but then because I thought about that, then I actually failed to catch the next ball
Right.
in the sequence. And I think with car accidents, you know, it's or bike accident, it's the same thing. It's like you almost avoid a collision. You're like, oh man, that was so close, and you're like talking to your buddy like how like
Oh, and then
close of
you
a call that
smash
was,
into each
and
other.
boom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that little like thought game, that little
Hmm.
like kind of, it's ridiculous, but just pretending I'm invisible. It doesn't let me get upset. You know, people are
Hmm.
crazy, and I don't know what's happening in their lives. I've seen people do some really really stupid things that could
Yeah.
have cost me my life if I wasn't paying attention. But instead of getting upset about it, I just kind of forgive them, and I go, I hope they don't do that again because that was really stupid. And then I just continue on my way. You know, and I
Hmm.
know some drivers that they fill up their vehicle with like all this rage, and they're so road ragey, but you're not affecting the other driver. Like the people that are being stupid, even if they cut you off or they almost like hit you or whatever, they can't they can't hear you yelling at them in your own car, right?
Hmm.
It's like you're
Yeah,
just putting that
exactly.
negative energy into your own vehicle with your own passengers, and for what? Like, you know,
Right,
nothing
that
happened
person doesn't
over
even
it.
care.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Half the time, I feel like they probably didn't even notice. You know?
Yeah, fucking someone unfortunately died right outside my house, like on a motorcycle. I don't even know what happened. A cop came to my door and like asked if I had any like security footage pointing at the road or anything. And
Yeah,
I was like, no. And he's like, and I was like, holy shit, because he told me someone died, and I was like, oh my god, like. And he's like, yep, always on a Friday too, or like a
uh,
weekend or something. And I was like, oh my god, he wasn't even phased. So
yeah,
like, I guess like deaths like that happen a lot, man. And I hope you're safe out there.
yeah.
Um,
No, I appreciate it, man.
yeah,
Knock on wood. So far, so
yeah.
good. But yeah, I take it easy, man. I'm not too crazy on it.
Mhm.
I rather live to see another day to ride than go super fast on one day and then not be able to live the rest of my life. You know, um, yeah, it's definitely it's scary, but I think you know, did my safety course, and I'm always like talking with other riders and watching like YouTube videos about how to be a better
Mhm.
rider. I'm gonna sign up for some. I've done a crap ton of like precision driving and stunt driving courses for cars. I've spent like a couple thousand hours in cars doing that stuff because
Oh
at one
wow,
point I
that's
wanted to be a
sick,
stunt
dude.
driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I might do that with cars again, but also with motorcycle. Like I would
Mhm,
love to take another course, you know, because it's been a few years. It's been like probably 6 years since I did my motorcycle safety course. So um,
mhm.
I think always like becoming better and more educated. You know, it's
What?
one thing to like, you know, do 250 or 260 on a track.
Mhm.
But you know, when I see these guys on like their crotch rockets just doing like a buck 80 or buck 90 on like Ontario Street,
Mhm.
I'm like, why? You know, like it's just stupid because you have
Yeah.
you have no control. There's no way to predict what's going to happen. You
Right.
know, no matter how safe you're being, you know,
Like,
a
yeah, I like
child.
what you said like earlier, how you kind of pretend you're that invisible car because a lot of people in other cars like actually they drive bad, and if they hit you, they're fine and you're dead, you know? Like
Yeah.
so it's like um yeah, what kind of bike do you have? Like is it like a one of these or like one of those?
It's like halfway in between, man.
Yeah. What? I've never seen one of those.
It's like, yeah, yeah. It's funny. So I'm trying to see if I can pull up a picture here. It's called technically it's called a sports cruiser, which is just a weird like way to put. It's not a sports bike, but it's not like a cruiser, so it's a sports cruiser, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't have any pictures handy. That's okay. I'm gonna send you one. It's a Kawasaki Vulcan. It's not quite a crotch rocket. It's not quite like the
Yeah,
like the ape
Harleys
handlebar
or
kind of thing.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's it's just I don't know. It was meant to be like a starter bike, and then I just I was like it's a 500, right? So it's a 500 cc's, and I got it. It was in really good condition, really low mileage on it, and I thought to myself, all right, like I'll have this for like a year or two. Like, it's got a pretty good engine in it. Like it's got a sports bike engine. It's got the Ninja engine in it. So it's got power, and I always said like it's got just enough power to get me out of trouble, but not enough
Mhm.
power to get me into trouble. And I thought, okay, like I'll have this and I'll upgrade when it stops scaring the crap out of me. But to this day, I haven't found a reason to get a bigger bike, man. Like this thing is just great for
Mhm.
what I need and what I use it for. Um, so yeah, man, and it's rewarding. You know, it's fun to just have a hobby that's not magic. You know, I
Yeah.
wish more people had like just hobbies that have nothing to do with their jobs. You know, just random things they enjoy.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
hate
you
to be
just
sexist, but I feel like a lot of women need more hobbies.
what makes you say that?
I don't know. It's just like that's. I shouldn't get into that. Now I sound like a dick. It
No, no,
sounds
no. I
sexist. Yeah.
no. You're making a generalization, man. It's
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
tired of the snowflake culture, man. I'm curious what makes you say that. It's like,
I don't know. I feel like just a lot of women friends that I know just don't really like have any hobbies. You know, it's like they just do their job, and then like if they don't have a boyfriend, look for a boyfriend, and then if they have a boyfriend, then they just hang out with their boyfriend. I guess I don't know. You know,
yeah, yeah.
like
No,
but
see,
I
that's
do
the
know a lot of passionate women that will get mad at me because I just said that through comedy and stuff like that, right?
sure. But you know, if we maybe like break that down, I think there's there's a lot of
I might
there's a
cut
lot
that
of
out of my podcast.
sure, cut it out.
I'm just kidding.
But uh, you know, let's look at the fact that you know, let's and I'll speak to just myself for now, just being a dude, just being a guy. Um, I I think I developed like a lot of random interests and then got pretty good at a lot of them based on the fact that I had nothing else to do. I didn't really have siblings. Um, I say I didn't really, which is confusing, but I met like an adopted family when I was 12. But up until that point, like I had to find ways to keep busy as just being an only child, you know, or as I
Mm,
like to call it, like a lonely child. Um, and so, you know, juggling and magic and unicycling and fire breathing and playing the piano and playing drums. And then came motorcycling and blah, blah,
mm,
blah, languages, learning languages. Um, but if we look at that and now kind of reverse it, I think in a lot of ways, maybe it's time that we start to celebrate women that do get hobbies and kind of do their own thing. And I'm
Right, they're
sure like
almost shunned upon. Like it's not their fault. Like they would want to get into stuff like that, but they're almost not allowed. Like there are no women magicians, right? That I know of. Yeah.
there's a lot that are very talented, and what's sad is that, yeah, when it comes to like mainstream,
Hmm.
not a ton. I mean, now with like some of these shows on like Discovery and stuff, we're starting to see a little bit more women in magic, which is great. um but yes, it's absolutely, it's a very male dominated industry slash hobby. And it's I don't know if you ever saw, there's um uh it's called the Bechtel test. Bechtel, Brechtel. I'm screwing it up. It's one or the other. I think it's Bechtel, because Brechtel is a playwright. Doesn't matter. But it's essentially in a movie. It's a test, and it's these two women, I think, out of Toronto that came up with it. But in a movie, if you break down like line for line, female character versus male character, and actual screen time as well. So female lines versus male lines, and how many they have, and screen time. And there's a couple other like kind of qualifiers that you need to pass this test. But they basically are shedding the light on the fact that to this day, you look at most blockbuster movies, and it's ridiculous. It's like, the graph is like this. The male lead
Hmm.
lines are here, and even the female leads that are playing aside their co-star, they're like here. And you're
Hmm.
like, why? It's very, very curious. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot that as men we can do, which is like, anytime I have a girlfriend who's interested in something, or like wants to learn, or wants to know where she can go to learn more, I'm always like happy to try and help. But yeah, if we like break down like why that is, I think, yeah, being shunned or like made to feel like they're unless they're like doing something aesthetically related, or doing something to like further their family life, they're not doing the right thing, right? And that's kind of fucked up, like that shouldn't be that way. I think that it's totally great to have hobbies. And I yeah, as I
Right.
said,
And
man.
I was being like kind of just sexist and ignorant and they probably just have hobbies I don't know about, right? Like.
Sure, but no, I'm hearing what you're saying, man, because like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm trying to think of my female friends, and like I'm like, I'm thinking like outside from like my circus friends, like the friends I trained with like at like circus school in
Mhm.
Quebec, or like people that actively work in the performance art industry. um there's yeah, and maybe it's localized too, like not to equally be a dick now, but
Mhm.
I feel like in St. Catharines or Niagara, I would agree with that statement. A lot of my female friends, like they don't really have things that they do like that
Mhm.
makes them happy, like other than like watching Netflix, or like maybe hanging out with friends.
Right.
um and I don't blame them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But um traveling like internationally, like I was in Nicaragua, January 2019. I met a crap ton of people, guys, girls, who like would surprise the hell out of me. This one girl was like a marketing director for some company in Toronto. But then like I was on the beach juggling, and she comes up and she juggles like 5 balls with me, and I'm like, "You juggle?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've juggled since I was a kid. I just love it." I'm like, "That's so cool." Like, what?
That's
You
sick.
work in marketing? Like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
like people
everyone
like
should
that, man.
travel, I think, for sure, because it's crazy how like different the whole world is. Like in Thailand, it's like always advertised as like so scary and bad, and of course, like the bad people there are really bad sometimes, I guess. Um, but man, like I just had such a good experience there. Like when I wiped out on the moped, for example, I went back to my fucking like little cabin I was staying. There was like these little cabins, and so we each had our own private cabin. It was dope for like $3 a day or whatever. And the lady that like owned the place made us call her mom, and she like bandaged me up and all this shit. She didn't like charge me any money. She just like took care of me because I got fucked up. Like, and I got like pretty badly fucked up. Like, I didn't break anything, but like I had like scrapes all over me. Like you could see like the bone in my knee and shit. But like I just like you know, and yeah, it was dope.
Crazy. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you made it out of that okay.
Yeah.
And it's cool that she was there, and that of all the corners you could have crashed on, at least you were near the three things you needed. A clinic, a pharmacy, and a motorcycle or a bike repair
Well, like
shop.
I think I just biked back to the place anyways, kind of all
Yeah.
fucked up. And like my helmet had like a huge dent in it. And my buddy wasn't wearing a helmet, but I was like, yo, fuck you, I don't care, I'm wearing this big stupid white helmet. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, I'm glad,
It
man.
was
It's
wild though. It was a wild trip. You ever been to Thailand, man, or anywhere like in that
no,
area?
no, man. I really want to go, and I've been meaning to go for a while. It's actually I have it's in one of these journals around here. I have it's this like exercise I do, and it's called dreamlining. So you have 6 months and 12 months. You have like these two columns, and then in each of those you have three categories, which is having, doing, being. So in 6 months, what do you want to have? What do you want to be doing? And what do you want to be? So I wanted to have this certain kind of motorcycle. I want to be doing, for me actually was a training camp with this guy named Ido Portal, who's like a movement expert in Thailand. And then being, I put like, I want to be a published author. And you write like, 3 to 6 entries in each category, 6 months, 12 months. And then you highlight the most important ones. And I do that almost every year. And it's amazing. Like the ones that I highlight, I tend to actually achieve. But one of the ones, as I just said, was this movement camp in Thailand. So I do want to go, man. I've been to Japan, but not Thailand. I want to do like Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, all that stuff.
Yeah, you should, man. I was supposed to stay for a month, but I left after 2 weeks, and it was sick, dude. It's just so crazy and different. I hope it's still like that because I went like 10 years ago. Um,
Yeah.
the thing I just
Oh, so you would
liked,
have been like 19.
yeah, okay, maybe less than that, then like 9 years ago or 8 years ago, something like that. 2021, I think. I don't remember.
It's okay.
I should look it up or something. Yeah. It's weird. Like some people remember shit differently. Like, do you like when you think of a memory? Do you like know what year it was like that it happened in?
No, no, and
Yeah.
it's funny because I just caught myself now being like, what does it matter if you're 19, 20, 21? Like
Yeah,
I don't even know why I said it. Like I don't even care. Like whatever, It's like we're so obsessed with specificity. It's like that couple sitting on the couch. That one time Harry and I, we were at the cabin. I think it was 1974. Lorraine, it was 1975. No, Harry, it was 1970. And it's like,
yeah.
just shut up. Like
Who
nobody
gives a
cares what
fuck? Yeah.
year it was.
Everyone listening to this doesn't give a shit. They don't want to
Yeah.
know what year I went to Thailand. Yeah.
It's just we're just so obsessed with specificity, man, and it's
Yeah.
for what to what extent, to what end goal.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I think if something big happened in that year, like 2020, I know the stuff that I did this year for like 5 years, I'll be able to be like, oh yeah, that was 2020 because I was stuck in quarantine,
Yeah, exactly.
But in 6 years, it might be different, man. This might just be like
Yeah.
a blip in time, I feel like
Yeah.
memories for me are like little movies, and I just rewind back and I go, who was there? What happened? What did I learn? End of story.
Man, I really want to know like what happens in like 1,000 years from now. Like if I had the option that they could freeze my body and like wake me up in 1,000 years and guarantee like I'm not gonna die or whatever, I think I would do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just want to know what
Wow.
it's gonna be like, man. And it's like, yeah, so like I guess like I would just say goodbye to all my friends and family. We'd have this big party or something like my funeral. But I'm there. I'm just gonna go to sleep for 1,000 years. So like,
Wow.
you know.
Man. Well, what do you hope it looks like in 1,000 years?
I like. Well, hopefully it's good, right? I want the like human race to succeed, and but I'm doubtful. It's scary, man. It looks to me it's scary. The future, even like 10 years, is scary. Like
Yeah.
Elon Musk is talking about like the Neuralink shit that scares the fucking shit out of me, man.
Yeah.
AI scares the shit out of me. Donald Trump scares the shit out of me. China scares me. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
disease, ticks, bro. Now, like when I was a kid, there were no ticks. Now there's ticks all over the place. I want to move up north. Like
Yeah.
disease. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Um.
Yeah, man. No, and I think it's a healthy fear to have. I
Yeah.
think it is kind of scary, man. It's like, um, yeah. I wish I could be a little less nihilistic, but I'm kind of with you on that. I do hope humanity as a race succeeds, but I too am doubtful only because all I've been able to see from just researching and learning and reading and spending time with very, very intelligent people is we've not really done that well, and we're kind
Mm.
of a young species still, like all things considered. There's a great book, man. I don't know if you're much of a reader, but there's this great book called A Brief History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson, and he breaks down basically the history since like the inception of the world with Big Bang to now, to time of publishing, which I don't know. I have no idea what year it came out. It's another of those, it's Harry and Lorraine story of like, who cares? But I think that for us to solve anything, we have to really, really take a deep fundamental. I'm just gonna not say
Fundamental.
that.
Yeah.
Fundamental. I just wanted to add an extra syllable there. It was going to be a really deep, epic quote, that I hope people would remember me by in years to come. And instead I said fundamental. Fentanyl. A deep fentanyl. Honest look within.
Oh my god.
And yeah. I'm gonna type it in my phone so I can read this word. Fundamental. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I don't know why that was such a difficult word for me, man. Wow. But yeah, no, honestly, like to make any sort of lasting changes, so much has to change, and as I said, like I think within us, man, and I hope that in 1,000 years and 10,000 years we're still going strong. But part of me also wishes that there was a giant reset button. Dear China and Trump, this is not a call for nuclear war. Please, screw off. But I part of me also wishes like our planet would just have time to regenerate. Like I don't know if you like saw the pictures of like the canals in Venice, like the Venetian canals, once they went into lockdown in Italy, and how the water just became so clear and blue, and there was like
so
fish
fast.
everywhere.
That's amazing.
Like so fast. And I hope that without some crazy thing that wipes us all out, that we can still get to that point where we realize, oh, if we continue down this path,
why don't we just keep staying inside all the time just for the sake of the environment instead of because of coronavirus?
Right. Yeah.
No one would do it though. We'd all just be like, fuck that. Yeah.
No.
Which is just so weird, It's so much more important, really. Like,
could you imagine that if there wasn't some deadly virus around, but the government said, hey guys, we're doing this new initiative. One day a month, we need everyone to stay inside and just chill out. Just take a day with your family, relax. One day a month.
Yeah.
I mean, that one day a month would do so much on a long term if everyone actually did it.
Everything's closed. Yeah. Like bars.
I think the reality is, man, we're too selfish, right? Like everyone's just way too interested in making like money and capital and like all
and partying
1 day a month
and shit.
yeah. So it's a cute idea, much like communism, works in theory sort of, but you look at the reality of it and you go, well, no, that's not good. It's not going to work. So yeah, man, but I think all we can do, and thank you, a fellow friend, a fellow comedian, like thank you for choosing to want to spread joy, and you took this initiative with the podcast, man. I tip my invisible cap to you because I think people do need it, and I think maybe, just maybe, if more people see stuff like this, or more people, like actually have honest conversations and like chat about things that matter instead of just constantly numbing themselves with drugs and parties and bullshit. If we actually just like took a moment just to appreciate and respect and share that gratitude, maybe in 1,000 years when you wake up from your weird Walt Disney chronicles of cryogenics, the world will still be here, man, and I hope so. But I right now I wouldn't bet money on it. That's as sad as that is to say.
Man, I appreciate you saying that, but I actually did the podcast out of selfish reasons because I just want to get watch time.
Oh, good. Okay, good. All right, good. Just fuck everything I just said, man. Let's just keep going into capitalism, and I hope your AdSense works out for you, and I hope your SEO is great, and I should do something really like weird so that there's a great thumbnail picture. Like I just want to take off my shirt and put like a cowboy hat on, and, like stare at the camera really weirdly.
That's perfect. I'll use that one right there.
Man,
maybe.
Yeah.
I'll forget by then, but I'll find something good. I always do. There's always a good thumbnail shot.
Oh man, I love it. How random can we get here? Hold on.
Yeah.
Freaking llama with elastics around its neck. Here. Look at that. All right. Now just hang the llama off the elastic.
Yeah.
Hold that.
All right. Perfect. I love it. That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh man, and people be like, "What is the what? How did they get to a suicidal llama with a top hat on this idiot's head? Also, why does he look like a screwed up Elton John with less money on some weird green screen?
Yeah.
Why can't he take his sunglasses off because he's inside?"
And I'm gonna make the title real clickbaity too. So
Oh please,
guy
like
hangs
magician
llama
reveals
alive.
all. Yeah.
Magician reveals all the tricks
And then
behind that.
hangs the llama. Yeah, that'll get views. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anything for those YouTube views, man.
Absolutely, man. Got to do it for the views. If you don't put it on YouTube, did it really happen? I don't think so.
Yeah. It'll be weird watching
man.
this shit in like 10 years or something, 20 years. Who knows how long I'm gonna live? Hopefully, fucking 50 years even when I'm fucking 80. Damn.
Yeah, I hope you live for another 1,000, man.
Yeah,
you know?
me too. 1,000 years, bro. Imagine I do this fucking thing, or another idea that I had was that technology and whatever is gonna get so good that they'll just figure out a way to stop disease, stop aging, or maybe put our brains in a robot body, and then we can all just live like 1,000 years and keep doing whatever we want and actually experience those years and like see what happens instead of waking up and like having to learn about history. Who even knows what's fiction?
This is my terrible face. That's what that is. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
You don't want to know? You don't want to know what happens in 1,000 years? No.
No, man. I'm quite good. I think. Man. Ooh. I don't. I feel bad. As weird as this sounds, I feel bad to some extent just being here right now. Like I feel sort of guilty just for existing as it is, and
because of like some damage to the earth and the environment that we're causing.
Yeah, like there's some really like nihilistic philosophy that I got into for a while, and if anybody's watching this who is at all having like thoughts about suicide or is depressed, I would recommend them turning this off because I don't think that's what this person needs to hear right now.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was reading basically said, and it actually ended up being happy, and there was a nice point to it. But it started off by saying the most generous thing and ultimately the most logical thing we could do for this planet is kill ourselves. Right. And it was this long ass book, and the eventual point was don't kill yourself, which I agree with. I don't think that anyone should end their life at their own hands, but that's just my subjective opinion, and people can argue me on that and go, well, they're really sick and they're tormented, so they kill themselves, and that's the way to go, and now they're not suffering anymore. No, that's their idea, whatever. But
I feel like there's also different situations where people kill themselves. Like it's not always like mental health or depression or whatever. Sometimes someone could just be in like a lot of pain, right? Like Kurt Cobain, I feel like a lot of the reason why he took his own life is because of the stomach thing. Right, it's like if you're in constant pain all the time, and like George Clooney talked about like this time that he had like a headache so bad he wanted to kill himself, and it got fixed or something. But yeah, go on. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah. No, it's fine, man. But no, my point was just, I think I'm gonna do the best I can with the life I've been given right now. I don't really have hopes of heaven or hell. I'm not exactly a religious person. I don't think there's some ultimate paradise or ending, and that might seem a little nihilistic to people. Excuse me, to people that do think that way or believe that. But for me, I don't know. I'm sure you know of him, but Tim Minchin is this incredible like comedy musician from Australia, and he's got this beat poem called Storm. And in Storm, he basically talks about, isn't this wonderful, wild world enough? Isn't this whole universe, this galaxy, our solar system, and everything beyond it, isn't that enough? And that single like lyric and that beat poem really made me realize, yeah, for me it is. And I don't think it's nihilistic to not believe in a heaven or hell. And I don't.
But yeah, this is so beautiful and crazy. That's why it's like when people believe in ghosts and stuff, that's kind of like what I say. Like, isn't this enough? Like,
yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah, man. It's that's just it. I think to a large extent, I think being okay with what you're in, whatever you're in, really genuinely being okay with it is really hard, right? Because you actually have to accept the fact that this is what you've got and maybe that's it. But instead we come up with these fucking bedtime stories and these preposterous these verses and this pain and suffering, and like it's for what, like, to this day it's printed on money, in God we trust, in the States and stuff. And it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
man, is it so bad that we have to exist by this book that was written 2,000 years ago? Like, because I'm kind of good, man. Like, I don't get it. But my point in saying that, man, is I hope to just die a peaceful death. And I actually don't even care when that is. Like, if it comes tomorrow, like knock on wood, I hope it doesn't. But if tomorrow I get hit by my motorcycle or just some random freak of nature thing happens, I'm excited that I got to do this podcast with you, man. And every day I think like
Me
that.
too. Love you, buddy.
Oh yeah, I love you too, man. Seriously, it's good vibes, and I think we carry on and we carry on until we don't, and then that's it.
Right.
That's be the best person you can be until then.
It's almost better that way. Like to live on after this is almost scary for me. Because that would, I don't know, like to live on eternally, wouldn't that suck? Like if you're in heaven forever, anything can get boring or whatever, right? And it's like I heard this one quote where it's like this guy, it's like repeated from somebody else. I heard the quote because he said he heard this and it made him be okay with the fact that there's no like life after death. And he said, it's like, what's the best part about a painting? And it's when it's done and you can just look at it, So it's like the same thing with your life. Just make each paint stroke as best as you can. And then when it's done, and it's like a book, and it's that, and
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful way to look at it, man. I tend to tell a lot of my artist friends that we, especially in Western culture, we tend to really highlight the product over the process, and that's a really cool, not rebuttal necessarily to it, but it's a cool way of looking at the opposite of what I've been saying, because my whole thing is I tend to try and highlight the process for people as much as the product, and the product will always get more attention. It's that finished YouTube video, it's the published podcast. That's what gets people's attention. It's the paintings, like the artwork behind you, man. I really like some of it, but
it's not mine. It's my aunt's, but thanks.
Oh
but
yeah,
Nemo is mine. I did the Finding Nemo.
Oh, that's amazing, man. You did that?
Yeah.
That's so good. And that's to my point, man. Like there's in the I guess over your left shoulder, unless you're mirrored, in which case I don't know where your left is. But the mountain scene. Yeah.
That's just a random one. I don't even know who did that.
But I would be so curious to actually sit and watch the process of that painting. And I've really tried to express that I think the process can be, we can start to highlight the process a little more. And then I think it adds even more of an oomph and an awe to the final product. And I think to what you just said about life being like a finished painting, man, that's a great way to look at it, man. And if you do make every brush stroke count, and you take, if you were to play a song, you imagine life as a song, but you made every note you hit on that piano, or every chord you hit on that guitar means something, and maybe you have weak moments, maybe you make a mistake in your song, but you don't stop playing, you just keep playing, you trying to play better and better and better. Yeah, man, that's really inspiring. I think I might cry a little bit later.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I liked how he switched it to different mediums too, where it's like it could be a song or whatever. Yeah, I like those fast forward videos where they paint. What are those called?
Yeah, like
time lapse. Time lapse. Yeah, I love all time lapse videos.
Yeah, no, those are cool, man.
Man, this is another stoner thought, but do you know what that trips me out is fireflies, dude. I have so many fireflies on my property. It's so beautiful, and it's like,
that's awesome.
It's like the whole back to this thing, like, isn't this enough? It's so like weird and like perfect how we have like this perfect like moon and these stars, and it's so beautiful, and things like fireflies that light up the night. Like, life could be so much shittier, man. There could be like giant spiders. We could be like fucking victims. I feel so lucky to be a human. Do you ever think like, what if I was born like a fucking ant or something?
Yeah, or a cow.
Yeah,
like a sentient being, but not a human. Yeah, no, I have thought about that before, man. I was at one point I had a set that I was writing about. I wonder how much it would suck to be like an anaphylactic bee. I was like going down this rabbit hole of like writing about like, from different points of view. Yeah, and I think ultimately it's so funny, man. I got so obsessed with like mind reading and mentalism within my world, because I think there's magic and there's different like subsects. You know, it can be a
Right,
stage
right.
magician or a comedy magician, and I
Some
really got
people
into
only
like
do card tricks, even if you're gonna go even
sure.
further in depth. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Card
Yeah, yeah.
magicians, yeah. But the mentalism, the mind reading, and I was chatting with my mentor, who's this guy Paul Wildbaum in Toronto. I brought him up earlier, but he looked at me and he said, ultimately, being a clown, and if we look at clown as again that overarching kind of, and I don't mean like the Western idea of like the clown from It, like Pennywise, or the red stupid wig with the nose and the like the birthday party, like no, I mean like the clowning in the traditional sense of the art form that you know that has been around for so long, that commedia dell'arte came out in Italy, and these different archetypes, Pantalone and all these different characters. But if you look at clowning and then you look at stand-up as a subsect of clowning, because I think ultimately every good stand-up is in some way either a white clown or a red clown, right? I think that stand-up comedians are ultimately the best mind readers, and they have the best understanding of human psychology, because they not only have to comment on the reality and be empathetic to the reality around them, they have to comment it but they have to comment on it with such a great understanding and a great awareness that the people in front of them will understand what they're talking about. And most often they won't even say what they're actually talking about, and that really trips me out, is that you as a stand-up comedian, or Jeff or myself or whomever, have such a thorough and ridiculous empathy for the world around us, that we can then comment on something in that world to people in front of us without even saying what it is. We just comment on what it is. We don't say, oh, look at that exit sign, it's so weirdly mangled, I wonder, insert punchline. You look at the audience, one glance, and it can be one line, and it goes, I wonder how much that guy got paid. And
Right, yeah.
everyone gets that you're talking about this mangled exit sign, right? And that is beautiful to me. That gives me hope, and I don't know where that came from, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that what you're saying with I think I get what you're saying. It's like you have to put them in your world, right? It's like get like a great comedian will like get you to see from their perspective, even though you've never been in that point sometimes, Like I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like I don't know, but I think I had a point somewhere in there.
Okay, it's okay, man. It's good. I like nonsensical absurdism too, man. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah. That's my
No,
comedy, dude.
hey, it's great, man. No, and I've seen you fairly recently, man, and it's so cool, because I didn't see you for a while, because like I moved to
Yeah,
Toronto, and I think I saw one of your, like, honestly, probably your first set or one of your very first sets,
yeah, yeah.
and I remember you being so excited because you saw someone you knew, and it just happened to be me, which flatters me. But I came out and I saw you do a set, and then recently I saw you do something, and I was like, it was so cool to see your evolution, and even like with
Thanks,
your
buddy.
podcast, man. I watched, I think, either the first or second episode. I watched the third. I skipped some, and then like seeing you with like Jeff, or seeing like the one
Yeah,
with Chris Van Stralen. Is that it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's so neat, and this, in a sense, if you don't get the cryo technology to freeze yourself, I look forward to you seeing these podcasts in 10 years, man.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
That'll be fascinating.
Yeah, man, that will be cool. And who knows if I'll still be doing it by then. It's crazy, like releasing one a day. Another one that's good if you haven't seen it is Manolis. He's dope.
Okay.
He's been around for a long time doing like fucking tons of comedy shit. There's like videos online of like Russell Peters joking about him because like they're friends, and like Ari Shafir, like, and it was cool like talking to like someone like he's like above David Green. Like David Green was like the most famous comedian that I like knew and talked to before like Manolis. Manolis is like a step even higher than that. So then it's cool. It's feel like I'm like almost climbing the ladder. Like, who knows? Next, maybe one day I'll be able to actually podcast with like Ari Shafir or fucking Joe Rogan, or who knows, right? It's
Absolutely.
kind of cool. Yeah.
No, it's awesome, man. And it's I think it's just a matter of, and we can talk about that, off camera, but it's just a
Hmm.
matter of getting referrals. At the end of this, you ask me like, hey, do you have anybody that you'd refer? And I try to help you, climb up
Right.
the rung, so to speak, even more. It's a great strategy, man. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and it seems like people are down to like be on shows, even if they're not down to watch them. Like I have more people that will be on my podcast than would watch my podcast,
Yeah, yeah. No, fair, man. I
which
mean,
is
people love talking
interesting.
about
Yeah.
themselves, man.
Yeah, yeah. They love promoting whatever they got going on, especially now with comedians and stuff. I almost like might as well just take advantage of the fact that they're not doing shows and stuff because they can't, right? So they have time for something stupid like this.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's stupid, man. I think it's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. Thanks. But a thing a friend of mine said was like of all the podcasts, it's like no one got famous. Everyone that like has a big podcast, none of them got famous off podcasting. They're all like famous people that just do podcasting. You ever notice that? So it's like,
Uh,
should I
I
even continue doing this, or should I try to get famous another way and then start a podcast?
well, okay, so two questions. One, I would challenge you slash invite you to look at your friends' opinions because if you look at like NPR or you look at oh man, I can't even like come up with a few examples. And there's one that I'm thinking of, and he's hilarious and he's a comedian, but I'm pretty sure he actually got more famous doing a podcast than he ever did with his comedy. I'm sure to this day he's like top three or top five on like iTunes in terms of downloads for podcasts. But um, I would just invite you to maybe look at that and find examples that actually work the other way. You know, I always
Right.
I
I
guess as
never
a
actually
magician,
challenged his argument. I just was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, if you
yeah,
say that's true, and just because no one else has done it doesn't mean I can't. If that were the
that's
case, true.
that's another thing, man. And I would, yeah, I think that's something I learned from being in magic is it take whatever I believe and then just for fun think the opposite and then come back and still try to argue the original point. And it's a great like brain exercise, right? So that's one. Two, is fame your end goal? And you don't have to answer that right now because I think what you mean by fame is maybe just having enough listeners where you can make enough money from advertising or sponsors to continue doing the show. Well,
Right.
those are two different things, man.
Mhm.
Because you can get famous really easily. You know what I mean? The Pain Olympics prove that. Like I hate to bring that weird stuff up, but
Yeah,
like
yeah. I'm not gonna do anything like
yeah,
that.
you know, it's that's
Yeah.
there's easy ways to maybe not easy,
Yeah.
but stupid ways to get famous. But
Hmm.
I think what you're interested in is maybe being financially
Secure. Yeah.
independent or secure. Yeah, through a medium that you actually enjoy, not
You're
a nine
spot
to
on,
five.
man. You're actually spot
Yeah.
on. Yeah. For
So then we take that and we break that down. We go, all right. So fame. I mean, fame is just listens or views, and that's one thing. But
sure.
um, I would for sure put the audio version of these onto Stitcher, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Mhm.
I would promote those three links. I would also have a website, and then it's really easy to reach out to local businesses and say, "Hey guys, like, do you have anything I can give away on my podcast?" Or if people want to come to you for a haircut, I'm not getting crazy amounts of listens right now, but you show them the demographic and it's mostly Niagara people or whatever it is, and
Right.
you go, look, this got 70 views, it's got 100 views. Would you be okay with me giving $5 off to someone that comes in for a haircut at your barbershop, and in exchange I get a free haircut? Well, every time that person gives $5 off, they're still making a profit, and you
Mhm.
get a free haircut. So maybe it's not so much about making money right now, but saving money. And like I have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
I have a Volkswagen Jetta sitting in my driveway that I didn't pay for because I traded, like I basically did shows for a guy that owns a dealership. And I'm
Yeah.
going to tell the story right now. It's a great story. And
Okay.
now people are
Sick.
going to hear about Momo Cars on Geneva Street in St. Catharines. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell them my positive experience with my buddy Sohail, who owns it. And next time they want to shop for a car after listening to this, they might
Mhm.
think, oh, go to Momo. And why? Oh, because Alex Kazam said so. That's a referral. And the more
Mhm.
referrals I get, we're going to start upgrading my car. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, like, to think that maybe it's not so much about generating profit right now, though I would invite you to find a way to do that sooner rather than later, because money still is, king, cash is king.
Yeah.
But there's tons of ways, man, to either exchange services or get discounts or whatever. So it's not impossible, man. I don't think
Mhm.
famous is necessarily the right answer.
Damn, that's dope. Do you actually have a story about getting that car though?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's in my
Can I
driveway.
hear
Yeah, yeah,
it?
yeah,
You said you were
yeah,
gonna tell the story and then.
yeah, yeah. So essentially, I I called Performance BMW. Like I used to have a buddy that worked there, and I
Right.
said, "Hey, is Andrew there?" And they said, "Not right now." I said, "Okay, can you get him to give me a call back?" And they said, "Okay." And then I called my buddy Sohel because I remember that he owns Momo Cars, which is like a used car dealership
Mm-hmm.
in St. Kitts. And I called him and he answered. And I said, Sohel, how are you? And we caught up for a bit. We were buddies throughout Brock. I helped him with like his campaign for Brock University Students Union to do the
Mm-hmm.
presidency and all that crap. But I reached out to him and I think he had me do a show at one point, or he wanted me to do a show. And I called him basically saying, "Hey man, I think I need a car, and you wanted to do a show. You messaged me a while ago. So how about this? I'm gonna do shows for you, but you're gonna give me a car. I don't want to buy a car for me. I don't want to pay for a car. I don't like that when you pay for a car and you drive it off the lot. Like the second you drive it off the lot, its value just drops. You know what I mean? Like you're
Right.
losing money. So I said, why don't we like come up with an agreement where I'm happy to like tag you in Instagram posts and tell people about the car, and at shows even I can have like sponsored by Momo Cars and this and that, and also what my rate is for the amount of shows that we were talking about, it would just work out to basically be the payment for the car. And then he was like,
So
yeah, okay,
really,
let's
you're
chat.
hooking him up. Really, it's a good deal for him.
Right.
Yeah.
And well, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
hope so. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's, yeah, that's a big way of. I've always tried to do business that way, man. Is
Mhm.
to give more than I'm getting. Like under promise and over deliver, right? Um,
Right. Yeah.
but
Always give him that extra pickle. There's like,
absolutely, man.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And then he was kind of like, okay, let's shot. And then here's a line I dropped. I said, okay, I just got off the phone with Performance BMW on Lake Street. So if you can get back to me with an idea, that'd be great. It's somehow implying that I had already, came up with some deal with Performance BMW, which I haven't. I even chatted with the guy. Um,
Yeah.
but he said, okay, well, we'll come see me on this day, and we sat down, we chatted it out, and within 2 weeks, I was driving away in a Jetta, which is great, man. The car's like, it was just in great condition, and like it's still here, and it's like, it's one of those moments where I know I don't really know how that happened, except
Mhm.
for the fact that like it comes back to that point I made earlier, like you decide. And I decided like it was getting cold. It was like September, October. I was on the motorcycle and I was like, man, I need a new set of wheels. And like, I'm just gonna do that, but I'm not gonna pay
Yeah.
for one. I just don't, and I'm not gonna steal one,
That's
right?
sick, man. That's such a
So
good story. I love it.
yeah,
You just like talked your way into getting a car almost. But
yeah,
you did pay for it with like instead of him giving you money for your shows and for like spons like you show and then you giving the money back, it's like you guys just worked something out, which I love. Like it's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Hmm.
There's a great book, and I'm pretty sure it's called "The Man Who Quit Money," and it's about literally this guy that just quit money, like, and just everything he does is just service exchange and bartering and like trading and like,
That's cool. I got a
yeah,
friend that's all about that, and I just like gave him shit. I thought like it's a crazy idea, but now you're making me more open up to like maybe it's possible
oh
to do
no,
that.
it's so possible, man. Like it's I think if I spend more time every day like researching, like if you think about it, right? Okay, accommodations. Well,
Mhm.
every landlord needs like some kind of property management help. So if you offer like services, like maybe
Right.
you're good at carpentry or plumbing or whatever,
Or you
you
can
know,
even
if
cut their grass if it's like the summer.
yeah, no, totally.
Shovel the driveway.
Yeah, it's and I've done that before too with
Hmm.
landlords in the past, man, where I would offer to do some of the landscaping and like the winter maintenance, so they didn't have to
Hmm.
hire an outside company in exchange for them lowering my rent. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's just like it's really fun. Um,
Oh, that's a good idea, actually. I never thought of like even doing that, but I live with my parents. But I mean, if I
yeah,
didn't,
well, yeah,
yeah.
man, but it doesn't have to be right now. It's whenever. I
Hmm.
feel like living with your parents is like the smartest thing to do right now, and I
Hmm.
I applaud people that are doing it. Most people that are doing it. Because it's just, yeah, it's what a great like safe space to be. I'm just at home with my
Hmm.
parents. Cool, man.
Yeah, yeah,
I wish that was an option. I think no, I don't.
yeah,
I like
yeah,
this independence now, but that's fine.
yeah.
Um, yeah, man. But you figure out like housing. Well, you need food, gas, like to get around, a car. Like you don't need
Hmm.
much in life, man. And I think I've heard of people like that have crazy deals with airlines too, like people that are buddies with like airline company directors and owners and stuff, and they like do shows and then just get like flown around the world whenever they want. That's pretty
Hmm.
cool. But yeah. Oh, buddy. Okay, I gotta run, man.
Yeah, this has been crazy, bro. We went way longer than we both expected.
Yeah, I know.
It's good, man.
I hate to let you go, man. I just I have a friend that I promised I would call today because it's her birthday. So I'm gonna do that.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks again for doing this, man. You were fucking awesome. It was good. Alex Kazam hangs innocent goat. We're all wearing a top hat.
Llama, yeah, llama.
Oh, it was a llama. Shit,
llama.
I forgot.
Yeah,
You're all confused. You're like, what the fuck?
Oh man, I would never ever hurt a goat, man. This fake llama though on there, right? It's like a mood light or something. I don't even think it works anymore.
Oh shit! Can you do a magic trick with the llama? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Pay me $5. Yeah. Oh man, so good. So good.
All right, love you, buddy. Right. See you, man.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's been a blast, and send me the link when it's up, and I'll post it everywhere. Okay.
All right, thanks, man. See ya.
Awesome, man. Cheers.
Peace.